Okay, so for the real world conversation, I actually want to take an example that happened at work last week. And it has to do with tone in written text. And I think this is probably one of the hard parts in English. I mean, I think this exists in all languages. And when you're learning English as a second language or third language, this is something that you want to be mindful of, especially if you're working with native English speakers or you're using English at work. And so basically what was happening was in our Discord, I was having a conversation with a coworker about a feature. And I thought it was done, and my coworker thought it wasn't working. And so we were kind of going back and forth, and I was like, well, did you read the text in the video? And, at first glance, right, you could interpret that many different ways. Did you read the text in the video? But because of the way that the conversation was going, like lots of back and forth, lots of questioning, it came off as a little aggressive. Like, did you read the text in the video? Kind of like that. And so basically what my coworker asked was like, hey, like, I want to be a team player. Can you give me direct feedback in a way that doesn't have tone, so that I can learn from it? And so kind of the way that I ended up doing that was, in the moment, I wrote out how I thought, how I was feeling, right? Frustrated, all of this. What was frustrating to me? I actually sent it to ChatGPT and was like, hey, you're an expert communicator. Can you help me give feedback to my coworker? He wants it to be direct instead of tone so that he can take it and be a better team player, right? Like, I just took exactly what he asked me. And I said, I'm going to write out my thoughts and I want you to summarize it so it's direct. Can you do that? And so the result was this. This was part of it. So I'll read it. Additionally, there are instances where it seems like you don't thoroughly review or read the materials I provide. Right? So we're trying to stick to a fact here. There's no feelings. It's kind of like an impression, right? It seems to me like you don't read them. That's an opinion, right? Like, to him, he might be like, oh yeah, I do. But it's direct and there's no tone. I find myself repeatedly pointing out specific areas for your attention. Again, like that's a fact, right? If I point it out 3 or 4 times, it's a fact, creating a one-sided dynamic, right? And so by that, I just meant like, it feels like I have to point these out and you're not putting the attention in. Then I said, well, I don't mind providing explicit instructions or links for features or testing, right? The fact, like, that's what I'm doing right now. I expect the same level of clarity in return. And that's just kind of like putting it in a direct way, right? I'm not saying like, oh, you're lazy, or oh, you make me upset, or oh, I feel frustrated, right? It's just kind of like, hey, I would like that level of clarity in return. And then currently, it feels like I have to make educated guesses. And that, again, that's tying it back to how I'm feeling, right? Rather than putting it on the blame of like me, I'm taking responsibility for my feelings. And just saying it directly, right? Like, I feel like I have to make educated guesses, which is a source of frustration for me. Again, it's kind of like, here's the situation. I'm being very direct. Here's how it's making me feel. And it was great. Like, we had a great conversation after this. I apologized for the tone, but I feel like this was a great lesson for myself, and I wanted to share that because I think this is one of the subtleties that when you get to that high level of like a native like level, these are things that you might have to deal with. So prepping yourself and understanding how to work through them is a great thing you can do for your fluency.